This is the captivating story of Jonah, a man who ran from his calling and ended up in the belly of a monstrous sea creature. It's a story of second chances, confronting our fears, and the surprising ways that destiny catches up to us, even when we're determined to escape. Jonah, a prophet of Israel, lived in a time of turmoil and tension. The Assyrian city of Nineveh had become infamous for its wickedness and cruelty, and Jonah knew well the atrocities that had come from there. So when God spoke to Jonah, commanding him to deliver a message of warning and repentance to Nineveh, Jonah was appalled. "Go to the great city of Nineveh," God's voice thundered in his heart, "and proclaim against it, for their wickedness has come up before me." But Jonah was terrified and outraged. He despised Nineveh and wanted nothing to do with delivering a message that could save them. If they repented, he knew God would show mercy, and that was the last thing Jonah wanted. The city's sins seemed unforgivable, and Jonah couldn't fathom why they deserved a second chance. So instead of heading east toward Nineveh, Jonah turned west and ran as fast as he could, straight to the port city of Joppa. Jonah boarded a ship bound for Tarshish, the farthest place he could imagine, far away from God's command. He paid the fare and sailed off, relieved to escape the burden of Nineveh. But as the ship journeyed deeper into the Mediterranean, the sky darkened, and a violent storm arose. The winds howled, waves crashed, and the ship was tossed like a toy in the angry sea. The sailors, seasoned seamen from various lands, were terrified. They cried out to their gods, hurling cargo overboard to lighten the ship. But nothing worked. Below deck, Jonah slept, oblivious to the chaos above. "Wake up, sleeper," the captain shouted, shaking Jonah. "Call upon your God. Perhaps he will take notice of us and we will not perish." With a heavy heart, Jonah confessed to the terrified crew, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. This storm is because of me. I am running from the Lord's command." The sailors were stunned, fear mingling with anger. "What should we do to make the sea calm down for us?" they pleaded. "Throw me into the sea," Jonah said, his voice solemn, "and it will become calm. I know that it is my fault that this great storm has come upon you." Reluctantly and with great fear, the sailors obeyed. They prayed for forgiveness and cast Jonah into the raging sea. Instantly, the storm ceased, and the sea grew calm. The sailors, awestruck by this miraculous turn of events, offered sacrifices to the God of Jonah. But Jonah's story was far from over. As he sank into the depths of the ocean, a massive shadow moved through the water. A monstrous creature, a giant fish, surged from the darkness and swallowed Jonah whole. In the pitch-black belly of the beast, Jonah found himself alone, terrified, and utterly helpless. For 3 days and 3 nights, he remained in the belly of the creature, surrounded by darkness, the stench of seaweed, and the pounding of his own heart. Jonah had no way out, no escape from his fate, no way to flee from God's presence. In the depths of despair, Jonah prayed. His voice echoed in the watery tomb as he poured out his guilt, his regrets, and his sorrow. "In my distress, I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From the depths of the grave, I cried for help, and you listened to my cry. I was cast into the deep, surrounded by the waters, but you, Lord my God, brought my life up from the pit." Jonah's prayer was a desperate plea for mercy, a cry for forgiveness for running away from his calling. He surrendered to God's will, acknowledging his mistake and vowing to fulfill the mission he had rejected. And so, in an act of divine grace, God commanded the creature to release Jonah. The fish spat him out onto the shore, alive and renewed, with a second chance to make things right. This time, Jonah obeyed. He walked the long road to Nineveh, his heart still heavy but determined. When he arrived, he preached the message of repentance with urgency and sincerity. 40 more days, and Nineveh will be overthrown, he declared, marching through the city's streets. To his shock, the people of Nineveh listened. From the king to the commoner, they repented of their wickedness, dressed in sackcloth, and called upon God for mercy. And true to his nature, God saw their genuine repentance and relented from the disaster he had planned. Jonah, however, was furious. He had hoped for judgment, not forgiveness. In his frustration, he retreated to a hillside, waiting to see what would happen. God used this moment to teach Jonah a final lesson, through a withering plant and a scorching wind, that his mercy and compassion extend to all, even those we deem unworthy.